welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. We are going to discuss something that broke yesterday, which is annoying because at my other job at the Smithtown Chronicle, which is where I am the film entertainment person, I did a lengthy piece about everything coming out. Put a little disclaimer at the top of it about how if you read, anything on this list is subject to change, considering, dates are probably going to move, and then, 2 days later, Sony announces that they are moving the release date from Morbius from the January 28th slot that it previously occupied into the April 1st slot. Now, here's the thing. Let's discuss what this is. Now, I saw the Hollywood Reporter cite COVID concerns, which is a possibility. I'm not going to discount that they are possibly concerned about COVID, and that could be a reason why they moved the date. However, I don't think that tells the full story. I think it's inaccurate to say they're concerned about Omicron solely because Sony is coming off of the highest grossing movie in the history of the studio. And that's not an exaggeration. That is literally a record for the studio, Spider-Man No Way Home. So to say that people won't show up at the theater to see a movie in the middle of a COVID surge is inaccurate, because the COVID surge was happening when that happened. We had the mask mandate go into effect immediately before No Way Home even came out. I was seeing a movie the week before where I had to wear a mask, and I did it anyway, because I don't know what these motherfuckers all around me have been, and people have a tendency to sit directly next to me in a movie theater when I fucking hate that. And I was, people were seeing movies then, and there hasn't been a downturn since, so it seems unlikely to me that No Way Home is, that the reason is solely COVID related. What I do think is this reflects a lack of confidence by the studio in this movie. Because here's the thing, if they thought the movie was going to be good and they wanted to avoid Omicron, they could have pushed it back to March, where I think the Batman comes out in early March, but they could have put it mid-March to late March. They could have put it in February, because by then the surge will have subsided, it appears. I'm also not a virology expert, so I don't 100% know for certain if that's the case, but it would stand to reason that, if everyone's getting it now and then you do get some immunity after that, it would stand to reason that by the time the new surge happens, it won't be for another few months. So if they moved it to April, that would, be it. And if they moved it to February, that would be it. Or they could have moved it farther out where there is not as much happening, where it's you get into July and August, or even September, where it's okay, we can put this movie out here, and it's not going to be as big of a, it has a chance of faring better, where it's, there's nothing else coming out around it. But to put it on April 1st, because let's break down what's happening around it. The week before is a pretty light week. It's, if I remember correctly, there is that Jason Statham action movie, where it's Jason Statham in a espionage thriller, which, could get asses in seats. I'm not going to disregard that, but, that is still a movie that, is not a huge get. Earlier in March, there's also Turning Red, which is Pixar's new movie. There is The Batman in very early March. So, look, I think that, saying, they putting it on April 1st, there kind of makes sense, where there is no movie in its second week that is going to bite into what's happening here. Then comes what's going to be biting out of it after that, because that's the real concern here, is for a release date, is what movies are coming in the near future after that are going to poke holes in its box office, and it's got some pretty stiff competition. Sonic 2 comes out the week after, and that's going to take a bite into its box office, where it's not going to be number 1 2 weeks in a row, the way Venom Let There Be Carnage was. And the fact that Let There Be Carnage came out when moviegoing was not as high also tells me they don't have faith in this, because they let There Be Carnage come out, and Morbius, is continually delayed. It feels like the New Mutants. That's the stink that I'm getting off of this movie. And the New Mutants was not great, but also not entirely awful to the point where I thought it was going to be. And I feel like there was and then 2 weeks after the release date is Fantastic Beasts 3, which, quality aside, is probably going to do $50 million. And if you at least $50 million, if not 70, 80, and if that's what it's up against, I don't see it going week to week and doing well. I really don't. And I think Sonic is going to be a bigger hit. The first one wasn't bad. I saw the first one. The first one wasn't terrible. It was one of the last movies I saw before the fucking movie theaters closed. It was like that and Onward, and I was like, oh, well, this will tide me over for 18 months until movie theaters reopen. So I feel like there was a miscommunication. Not a miscommunication, but I feel like it is wrong to blame this on the pandemic and say, well, we're concerned about the pandemic, and that's why we're being cautious, and we're moving the release date out. And someone I know said that, it's, they're going to reshoot to add Andrew Garfield in. I'm like, you can't, in 4 months, you can't do that. I'm sorry. In 4 months, you can't, sign a contract with Andrew Garfield for him to come back. If they said they shot 2 versions of the movie, one of them had Andrew Garfield in it and the other didn't, and this was, and it's and then they used test screenings to determine what was going on, that would have, made more. No, you know what, it wouldn't have, because fucking Michael Keaton's in this movie, reprising his role. So, even to say that, they were waiting to see what was going to happen with No Way Home, and now they got to delay it again, because it's they knew that this was happening. They knew that No Way Home was coming out in December, because I think No Way Home is, the only movie on the, on the release slate that didn't get delayed, 7 times due to COVID. It was it was coming out December 17th, come hell or high water, it's coming out December 17th. We will edit our movie to make it fit in, considering the fact that Multiverse of Madness was getting delayed until after this movie. So they had to recut this movie and reshoot this movie to stay on that date. And I think that to say that, that's what's happening is, I think, not, I don't want to say ludicrous, because that seems, wrong, but no, you know what, let's say ludicrous. I don't think that that's it. I think that if Andrew Garfield is in this movie, and there is absolutely nothing to indicate that he is, I think it would have to be because it would have to be something that was shot after, it would shot before this. Not they delayed it for reshoots. They delayed it because they don't have confidence in the movie, and I think giving it a different release date gives you it opened against this, and it's we were concerned about the pandemic, so we delayed it, and at least it lets you save face when the movie bombs. And at least it makes it where it's okay, out of an abundance of caution for COVID, we moved the date. And, the only date that was open that wasn't occupied by 12 other movies was this one. We moved it there. It came out, didn't do well, but what can we do? I mean, we knew Sonic was going to take a hit on it. We knew that, Harry Potter was going to take a hit 2 weeks later. So we didn't really have considering the other movies that Sony's put out this year and made money on, It's like Venom, Let There Be Carnage, No Time to Die was also a Sony distribution movie. Like, there are plenty of options to show where movies have come out during a pandemic and still made money. Like, even Black Widow came out in July and made $80 million. Granted, it didn't have a huge thing to get around where it's like we have to sit here and deal with we gotta sit here and deal with everything going on around it, and there's not a ton of other movies in the area, but still $80 million in a pandemic is not bad, and I feel like they did it was a smart idea to move the release date. But at the same time, it's, for that, but I don't know. I feel like this is telling in a way that it's not before, because we're in an age where movies aren't moving anymore. They're just kind of positioning themselves for failure at this point. And it's like, and Sony's notorious for this too. They opened Jumanji 2 against Star Wars because I thought Jumanji 2 was not going to do well. And then it did well. And they were like, oh, well, it worked out. And I feel like putting that... Like if they were willing to open Bond during the pandemic... And we're at this point now, we're kind of, as a society, we're kind of just like, forget it. We don't want to deal with this anymore. Let's just watch, go to movies, see concerts, do whatever the hell we want to do. Forget it. We'll take the risk at this point as a society. I feel like, Morbius' delay is more of a plausible deniability move, or an attempt to renegotiate a contract to do a day and date, because that's what Clifford was for. Because Clifford was the only movie, since movies came back and stopped reshuffling, Clifford was the only movie that got delayed again, I believe, and that was because it went day and date on Paramount Plus. And if that's the case, where they're trying to work out a distribution deal to go premium access to Disney Plus, or something similar, then no, but they have an exclusivity deal with Disney, and Disney... they might put Morbius on there. Who knows? I feel like it's, it's kind of a weird situation where, delaying movies with the intent to see, like, oh, well, let's see. Because if you're still pulling over $100 million, I don't know what this last weekend's box office was for Spider-Man, but if you're still pulling, upwards of $100 million each week, it makes no sense to delay this movie and say you're concerned about COVID. If you're still pulling this much money on Spider-Man, maybe they're thinking, like, the only thought process behind COVID being the reason is that, people are going to be afraid to risk it again after seeing Spider-Man. And if that's the case, I'd be like, oh, maybe, but, like, at the same time, no. Like, I don't know. There are so many avenues to this decision that don't make sense, considering Sony has, as a studio, had the best year of any studio, with COVID going on. Because even considering the fact that they have to split the money on the Spider-Man co-production for No Way Home, Let There Be Carnage was the highest grossing movie the year before that. No Time to Die held the record for a little bit too, and those are both Sony distribution deals. If MGM produced, what was that one called? No Time to Die. So I feel like, it feels weird to me that they're all of a sudden being like, yeah, let's not risk it. It feels like they're like, we're moving this to be a sacrificial lamb. We're moving this into a position where it can be forgotten about quickly, because it's like, it comes out, people start talking about Sonic the week after, people start talking about, even if Morbius comes out and is bad, see, that's the other thing, is the bad press of it all, where it's like, Morbius is coming out now. It's all people are going to talk about until Moonfall. it will dominate the social media conversation until Moonfall. Moving it, not only do you get the opportunity to be like, well, the Batman happens in between, so that will, kind of be not a palate cleanser, but like a social media palate cleanser, I guess would be what we call it. For the superhero movie subgenre or genre of movie, it would be it'd be a way to take that and be like, well, it's no longer a direct comparison to No Way Home. It is now a direct comparison to the Batman. For a lot of people, it's like, well, we just saw the Batman, and the Batman was good, and then it's like it'll give time to dissociate the two. So that could be it too. But I think that the only explanation that makes sense really is they are not confident in the movie's ability. It reeks of pot right here. In the movie's ability to what's it called, to perform at the box office or perform critically with audiences. And I think that's ultimately what this move is. It's pretty transparently that. So we'll wrap up there for today. That was a big news story I wanted to get in with and just, be like, hey, by the way, this is an interesting thing that's worth talking about. This week on Beware of Spoilers, we'll be talking about Book of Boba Fett Episode 2. We will be talking about, the 355, and I may have something else to talk about, too. Not something of mine, which is when I get coy like that, usually what I'm doing is I might have a cool announcement, something I'm doing, but no, nothing like that. It's I have to watch something later today and read the email thoroughly before I talk about it, because I don't know if the review embargo is still up or not. But I will be watching something before it goes on the television, and I'm looking forward to this. So we'll be discussing that later this week on 30-Minute Review on Beware of Spoilers. So if you like the show, please subscribe and give us a 5-star rating, especially if you're on Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts. That's where it is the most helpful. But anywhere you can rate does help. But subscribing also helps if we can get subscriber numbers up. So until our next episode, which will be the next time something big happens worth talking about, have a great rest of your week.